At least till now. Back on March 23rd, was it the 26th, 3 days ago? Saturday? I think it was Saturday. Back on March 23rd, a $1.2 trillion Omnibus Bill was signed to avoid government shutdown. Where have we heard this before? This has happened quite a bit, hasn't it? This is a bill that no one read. Nobody read it. And in order to keep their paycheck, they passed it. This thing is over 1,000 pages. I think it's 1,012 pages. And these people had 24 hours to read that before signing it. Nobody read it. Nobody knew what was in there except for the people who wrote it and just pieced it together. I'm not going to lie. I didn't read it either. You guys know me. Sometimes I read these bills and these reports and stuff. I wasn't going to read a 1,000-page bill. It was just not going to happen. So yeah, I didn't read it. I kind of went through and glanced over it, and I kind of took information that other people were saying that were in there and kind of went in and see if I could find some of the stuff. But I did not read the whole thing. So yeah, just saying. But yeah, nobody read this thing and they signed it. And as I've said in the past, when something absolutely needs to get passed, if they get direct orders to make sure that something needs to pass, it's going to pass. Whether it's pausing the theatrics, the political theater, because that's what it is, or just jamming stuff into a bill and, putting the threat of government shutdown and losing paychecks. You got to just sign it without even reading it and all that stuff. If something has to pass, it will get passed. Patriot Act was the same thing. The CARES Act was the same thing, and so on and so on. You can go through and find all the different things. When they get direct orders to make sure it passes, it's going to pass. And that a lot has to do with when the top tells you what to do, you're going to do it. And how do they do that? Because everybody is a puppet. I'm sure some of you guys are probably getting tired of me saying that, but it's something that people still can't seem to understand. It's all theatrics. And when something's got to get done, it will get done. This omnibus is one of them that, as some of the contents removed from the initial bill were basically removed to pave the way for the CBDC. If you guys don't remember, the Treasury and stuff like that for the United States and a lot of the people from the Senate and the House and stuff were saying CBDC is not going to happen. We're not working on that. And there's no initial thing. It's not going to happen. And, all these things about we're going to block it. It's not going to happen. Well, this was in the bill and it was unblocked. The blockade was lifted for CBDCs. So let's take a look. That is not the right one. That is the one I'm looking for. It says U.S. House funding bill passes after anti-censorship, anti-CBDC measures are removed. How convenient. How convenient. A $1.2 trillion spending bill just rushed through the House of Representatives in the U.S. has enabled allocation of funding to what would have been prohibited recipients and policies. This include earmarking money in support of censorship efforts, a U.S. CBDC, and vaccine mandates, among other things. Let's keep going. In a series of posts on Twitter, Representative Andrew Clyde singled out examples from the 1,000-page document, which was published early on Thursday, giving members of the House less than 24 hours to decide on how to vote. And so he posted some of this stuff on there, and he said surrendered, which means it was removed. It's not in the bill anymore, which was prohibiting the Treasury Department from establishing a U.S. CBDC or discontinuing paper currency. Now, the U.S. CBDC is dangerous alone, but it also removed the block on discontinuing paper currency altogether. That's a big one. We're going to stop cash flow, which means that could make it so much easier to go, well, we're transitioning into the CBDC. The cash flow has stopped, which means people are going to naturally progress into the next step. That is a big, big one to keep an eye on when it comes to all of this. But none of this should surprise us as the theater of good guy red, bad guy blue continues to fool the nation and the church. People need to realize that over 100 Republicans signed that bill. I thought they were the good guys. Many of them are the ones who will stand there on their platforms, pound their fists, and go, no CBDC, as they signed that thing to get through. Never listen to what they're saying on that. Take a look at the actions. And I still see Christians shocked by this stuff. I mean, people still, it's mind-boggling where they get up in arms and they get shocked and they go, well, if we just had more Republicans in there, it would have stopped. Well, the fact is the majority of the Republicans in the House voted for it. Just like they did with the CARES Act. And just like they did with the Patriot Act. And all these acts that when they need to get through, when they get told it must go through, they put aside their theatrics and they get it through. That's the main point that I'm trying to make on this. The government, I'm just going to say it. The government, all of them, hates you. You ever heard the term, you are the carbon that they're trying to remove? It's true. The government hates you. Why would a bunch of millionaire, billionaire pedophiles care about you? They don't. But yet, we see people begging for more of them. The House of Representatives is the house of hypocrites. And the same people that said they won't allow a CBDC just signed off on something, unlocking it. Why? Because they were told to do it, especially since they made it known on March 13th that CBDCs were a priority. We take a look. This is Emerson. Can't remember his last name. Says, if you don't think that the Fed is pursuing a CBDC, think again. The Fed gave this to my staff during presentation earlier in Congress. They view a CBDC as one of their key duties. And this is the agenda that they had at the time. Key duties for the Federal Reserve includes currency, check collection, automated clearinghouse or ACH payments, wholesale payments from with the FedWire system, fiscal agent of the U.S. government, FedNow, and central bank digital currency. They were making it. No, this was 10 days before this Omnibus Bill got signed, which this is the same Federal Reserve and the same Congress and everybody that said, no, it's not one of our priorities. Nah, we're just kind of poking around with it. We're not really actually doing anything. And then, boom, main priority, 10 days later, boom, release the blockade on funding CBDCs. It's all theatrics, guys. They do what they're told. And the fact is they are the gatekeepers at the moment when it comes to global digital system. And they're making it known. They're making it known. Now, let's not forget the 3-month CBDC pilot, which was initiated by the Federal Reserve back in 2022. I did a video on this. Don't know if I still have that video up or not. Sorry, but I did do a video on it where they partnered with 6 mega banks to test a carbon credit and social score transaction system. This was something that they were working on. A lot of the big banks, JP Morgan and Bank of America and Citibank and some other ones as well, 6 of them, were testing this. And not only was it CBDC, but it was a social credit system as well as a carbon credit system on top of it. I thought that the Federal Reserve wasn't interested in CBDCs. I hear a lot of loud voices yelling against these CBDCs in the government, but yet the actions speak differently and volumes louder if you are actually choosing to listen. Again, we can get caught up in what a lot of these guys are telling us, a lot of what they're saying, and that's great. It goes right along with what we like, makes us good, puffs up our head, removes the defensive shield a little bit, and so we forget to look at the actions that they do, and the actions usually aren't in line with what they're saying. Just saying. Okay, so other blockades removed from the omnibus is censorship initiatives and misinformation funding. You guys remember how they were trying to create the Ministry of Truth board, and that was quickly, quote unquote, dissolved. So they say, whenever, this is important to understand, whenever the government dissolves a board or an agency or a branch or something like that, they don't go away. They just go into other branches and agencies already there and continue to do what they said they were going to do. So that's important to understand. It's always been there, but they're looking to bring it back. So if we take a look, says the Department of State's Controversial Global Engagement Center is one that the benefit from the bill, as is to get funds to supposedly target only foreign countries and non-state actors engaged in propaganda and misinformation. Remember, this is one of the main things, not only for the U.S. government, not only for the WEF, not only for the UN, but the WHO, a part of that, the accord, that the pandemic accord that they're working on, has mega restrictive misinformation censorship stuff in there as well. So this is falling in line with that. But the reasons GEC has gotten itself in the news has been allegations that its activities so far also targeted lawful speech of Americans. That's not what it's for, but that's what they're using it for, like every other government agency out there. Some instances of this behavior, known as government big tech collusion, are subject to lawsuit, as GEC is accused of acting as a linchpin in White House effort to utilize private companies for censorship the government is constitutionally prohibited from getting involved in. Basically, they're just stepping all over the Constitution and doing whatever they want to do. Again, like what the government usually does. And so what does that mean? Some of the things that Andrew Clyde also point out, again, surrendered, which means it was taken out, was prohibition of DHS funds from being used to support a disinformation governance board or any entity engaged in censorship. There's your Ministry of Truth board again. They basically unlocked it, allowing them to create it again. Along with that is surrendered or taken out is defunding DHS government by proxy censorship, which has to do with big tech, like how Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all the other stuff out there, I can't keep track, there's so many of them now, all do censorship and removal and blocking of people's content if they deem it's misinformation and stuff like that. Well, that's what that means. So basically they removed that from the omnibus, allowing more funding to go into those programs and agencies as well. Again, they just keep doing whatever they want to do. Whatever they want to do, they just go ahead and sign it over, get it done. Oh my goodness. It's crazy. It's not crazy. I don't know. Whenever I say it's crazy, it's unbelievable. It's perfectly believable. I just kind of say it as like, oh my goodness type of thing. I mean, again, we're living in a times where this should not surprise us at all. Especially since you look around the world, look at some of the stuff, look at what's going on in Canada, the bills that they're trying to pass. I mean, if you can go online and say, you know what, I hate Reuben sandwiches. And if you got a shop owner that makes Reuben sandwiches and he gets it all up in a tizzy with his feelings and stuff like that, you can go to the board and say it's hate speech for having the opinion that you hate Reuben sandwiches. Now, if you don't like Reuben sandwiches, I don't know what's wrong with you. But still, you should have every right to say that. Just saying. But I mean, this, again, should not surprise us with what's going on in the least.